Dr. Maya Bennett had saved lives at 30,000 feet before. But on this flight, she wasn't treated like a doctor. She was treated like a threat. One moment, she was seated in first class, minding her own business. When she boarded Flight 447, the cabin smelled like fresh coffee and expensive cologne. Soft lighting, leather seats. She found 2C, settled in, and closed her eyes. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. But 2 rows behind her, flight attendant Jennifer Calloway was already watching. Her eyes narrowed as Maya pulled out her tablet, lingering too long on her locks, her sneakers, the way she seemed too comfortable in first class. Jennifer had worked this route for 12 years. She knew who belonged up here and who didn't. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Maya looked up, confused. "I'm sorry, your boarding pass," Jennifer repeated, louder this time. "I need to verify your seat assignment." Around them, conversations quieted. Heads turned. Maya felt heat crawl up her neck. She'd been a doctor for 8 years. She'd held beating hearts in her hands. But in that moment, she felt like a child being scolded in front of the class. It's on my phone." She fumbled for it, fingers clumsy, hating how nervous she suddenly felt. Jennifer waited, arms crossed, while Maya pulled up her mobile boarding pass. First class, seat 2C, paid in full. The flight attendant barely glanced at it. Okay. No apology, no acknowledgement, just a cold turn on her heel as she moved to the next row. Maya's hands were shaking. The woman beside her, white, mid-50s, designer handbag, leaned over and whispered, "That was ridiculous." "I'm so sorry." Maya just nodded, not trusting her voice. But it didn't stop there. She just didn't know that the man sitting in 1A, quietly sipping his espresso, had been watching her too. It started with the champagne. 20 minutes into the flight, Jennifer Calloway moved through first class with her tray, offering pre-departure drinks. She smiled at the businessman in 1B, laughed at a joke from the couple in 3A. But when she reached Maya's row, her face went flat. That's when Maya noticed him. The man in 1A had turned fully around in his seat. He wasn't pretending to read or scroll through his phone like everyone else. He was staring directly at Jennifer's back, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. Their eyes met for half a second. Then he turned back around. Maya sank into her seat, humiliated and exhausted. She just wanted this flight to be over. But Jennifer wasn't finished. An hour into the flight, as Maya tried to focus on her presentation notes, the flight attendant returned, this time with a security tone in her voice. "Ma'am, another passenger reported that you were acting aggressively." Maya's head snapped up. "What? I'm going to need you to stay seated for the remainder of the flight. No getting up. No using the restroom." "I haven't even, ma'am." Jennifer leaned in close, her voice dropping to a hiss only Maya could hear. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." And that's when it happened. Maya stood up, not aggressively, just reflexively, and 30 minutes later, Jennifer was back. This time, she claimed Maya's carry-on was too large and needed to be checked. It wasn't. It fit perfectly in the overhead bin, same size as everyone else's. But Jennifer stood there, insistent, while other passengers pretended not to watch. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to gate-check that bag." "It fits," Maya said quietly. "It's the same size as company policy." Jennifer's smile was razor-thin. "I can have the captain come back here if you'd like." The threat hung in the air. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Not fear, fury. But she was 34 years old and black and sitting in first class on an airplane, and she knew exactly how this could go. So she stood, pulled down her bag, and handed it over without another word. Jennifer took it with a satisfied nod and disappeared toward the front galley. The next, a flight attendant's hand struck her face in front of everyone. The cabin went silent. Passengers pulled out their phones. Maya sat frozen, humiliated, her cheek burning. But what that flight attendant didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man in seat 1A wasn't just another passenger. He'd been watching everything. And in the next 60 seconds, her entire career would come crashing down. This isn't just a story about a slap. It's about what happens when prejudice meets power and loses.
You have to listen to me. There's something wrong with the flight. We need to do something now.
Passengers pulled out their phones. Maya SADR. Maya Bennett wasn't supposed to be on that flight. She'd spent the last 72 hours in back-to-back surgeries at Johns Hopkins, her hands steady as she'd guided a young boy through a life-threatening cardiac procedure. When she finally stripped off her scrubs at 4 a.m., her attending physician had insisted, "Go home, Maya. Rest. You've earned it." But Maya never went straight home. Not when there was work to be done. Instead, she'd boarded a red-eye to Atlanta for a medical conference, one where she'd be presenting her groundbreaking research on pediatric heart surgery. At 34, she was one of the youngest black female cardiothoracic surgeons in the country. She'd worked twice as hard to get half the recognition, and she'd learned long ago that excellence wasn't optional. It was survival. The airport was quiet that morning. Maya moved through security with her carry-on and laptop bag, her first-class ticket tucked in her phone case. She'd splurged on the upgrade, a rare luxury, but after 3 days on her feet, she figured she'd earned a comfortable seat, the tea frozen, humiliated, her cheek burning. But what that flight attendant didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man in seat 1A wasn't just another passenger. He'd been watching everything, and in the next 60 seconds, her entire career would come crashing down. This isn't just a story about a slap. It's about what happens when prejudice meets power and loses. Jennifer's hand shot out and slapped her across the face. The crack echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Maya's cheek burned. Her ears rang. She couldn't breathe. And in the sudden, terrible silence, the man in seat 1A rose slowly to his feet. The man in 1A didn't rush. He didn't shout. He simply stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked down the aisle with the kind of quiet authority that made everyone instinctively sit straighter. Jennifer turned, annoyed at the interruption, and then her face went white. "Mr. Chun," she stammered. I didn't know you were on this." "What?" he said, his voice low and controlled. "Did I just witness?" The cabin was so silent you could hear the hum of the engines. Jennifer's mouth opened
Sir,
and closed.
please assist her.
"Sir,
She needs
this
help."
passenger was being disruptive, and I was just... You struck her. He wasn't asking. He was stating a fact. In front of 50 witnesses. On my airline. Maya's brain was struggling to catch up. My airline. Jennifer's confidence crumbled like wet paper. She wouldn't comply with safety protocols, and I felt threatened. David Chun, CEO and majority owner of Skyward Airlines, looked at Maya, still frozen in her seat, hand pressed to her burning cheek. Then back at Jennifer, by a woman sitting quietly in her assigned seat. "I was following procedure." "Show me the procedure," he interrupted, his voice colder now, "that authorizes you to physically assault a passenger." Jennifer's face flushed red, then pale. Her hands twisted together. "Mr. Chun, please, I've worked here for 12 years. And in those 12 years, how many other passengers have you treated like this?" He pulled out his phone, already typing. "How many other black passengers have you harassed, humiliated, or removed from flights because you decided they didn't belong in first class?" The words hung in the air like an indictment. Maya finally found her voice. "I'm a doctor," she said quietly. "I just wanted to get to my conference." David Chun turned to her, and for the first time, his expression softened. "I know. Dr. Bennett, isn't it? Johns Hopkins. I read about your work in the Journal of Cardiothoracic Surgery last month." He looked back at Jennifer. "You just assaulted one of the most brilliant surgeons in the country. On my plane. In my first-class cabin." Jennifer's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed the seat back for support. "You're fired," David said simply. "Security will be waiting when we land. And Dr. Bennett," he nodded to Maya, "my lawyers will be in touch. This will be made right." The cabin erupted. The plane landed 40 minutes later. True to his word, security was waiting at the gate, but not for Maya. Jennifer Calloway was escorted off the aircraft in silence, her face buried in her hands, her 12-year career ending in the same aisle where she'd wielded her power so carelessly. Maya walked off that plane with her head high, flanked by David Chun himself, who personally ensured she made it to her conference on time. He arranged a car, upgraded her hotel, and 3 days later, his legal team presented her with a settlement offer that included a public apology, policy reforms across the entire airline, and mandatory anti-bias training for every employee. But Maya didn't do it for the money. She did it because she knew she wasn't the first. And she refused to be silent, so there could be a last. Within a week, the video from that flight, recorded by multiple passengers, went viral. Millions watched. Thousands shared their own stories. Flight attendants, gate agents, fellow passengers, Black travelers who'd been quietly enduring this treatment for years, told they were overreacting or making it about race. Maya's story became their megaphone. Skyward Airlines overhauled their entire discrimination reporting system. Other airlines followed. It wasn't perfect, systems never change overnight, but it was a start. And Maya? She gave her presentation. She continued saving lives. She refused to let that moment define her. But she also refused to let it be forgotten. Because here's the truth. Racism doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it wears a uniform, a smile, a corporate policy weaponized by someone who's decided you don't belong. Maya Bennett belonged in that seat. She belonged in that cabin. She belonged anywhere her talent, her work, and her ticket took her. The question is, how many others are still being told they don't? How many are still sitting in silence, absorbing the humiliation, because they're afraid of what speaking up might cost them? And when you see it happening, in the air, on the street, in the spaces you occupy, what will you do? Because the truth is, we all have a seat on that plane. The only question is.
And that's a wrap for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really hope you found it helpful, or at least a little entertaining. Your support truly means the world, and is the reason I get to keep making content like this. If you enjoyed this video, would you do me a huge favor and hit that thumbs up button? It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. I've got a lot more exciting stuff planned that I can't wait to share with you. Feel free to leave a comment down below to let me know what you thought or what you'd like to see next. I read every single one. Thanks again for watching, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.